At what point do we finally say enough is enough? At what point? At what point? I know I'm coming in kind of dramatic here. I get it. But if you're the New Orleans Saints, at what point do you just admit that the problem is not the quarterback you've swapped, not the wide receivers you've swapped, not the running back that you finally have back that's supposed to provide the spark to your offense, which is, at what point do you admit Pete Carmichael sucks? And I will say this. I'm coming into this postgame admitting that I'm a little heated. Admitting that I'm a little heated. You bench Trevor Penning. Fine. I don't agree with benching Trevor Penning, but I get it. I understand. You want to win. You say this puts you in the best chance to win. How can you not bench Pete Carmichael? I'm just being honest. You know, and what's worse is you can see scenes of it working in the first quarter. Let me give you an example. Here's what we're going to do my normal run. I promise y'all, but I've got to say some things first. Let me say my piece, and then we'll get into the regular type of the show. Here's my piece. Pete Carmichael, I have said, when he gets in stressful situations, he reverts to negative tendencies. An example of him doing things right, first quarter. The touchdown from Derek Carr to Rashid Shaheed is a skinny post, hitting the middle of the field, and stressing the left center. Great play call, great touchdown pass. Offense looks fantastic. In fact, if you go statistically, go quarter by quarter. What did the New Orleans Saints do in the first quarter? It looked good. It looked fine. I mean, the offense didn't look perfect, but considering past history, it looked fine. Derek Carr was 7 for 10, 70%, right at 100 yards of TD. Alvin Kamara, 5 carries in the first quarter, 24 yards, about $5 a pop. Had 1 reception for 15 yards. Chris Olave is the only one who didn't record a catch, kind of your main guys. But your offense still looked good. Final drive. What did the New Orleans Saints do? Sidelines again. What did I just make a film study on a week ago? Talking about Pete Carmichael's bad tendencies and what he will do that shoots the New Orleans Saints in the foot. Sideline. He relies on the sidelines, which are the hardest throws and the hardest catches to make for everybody. As a receiver, you not only have to combat the DB, you have to combat the sideline. And anybody that wants to argue, well, he was doing that because time was not on their side and they had no timeouts, cool. Here's the easy rebuttal to that. They're 25 yards from the end zone, and every shot in the end zone, you don't give a crap about time because if you catch it, it's a touchdown. If you incomplete it, time doesn't change anyway. They didn't attack the middle of the field at all. They kept trying to take these end zone shots, corner routes, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with a corner route. Absolutely nothing wrong with a corner route. Corner routes are fine. When you consistently do them over and over and over, it's predictable. People know your tendencies. People know where your failings are at. Until Pete Carmichael changes, you can gripe about Derek Carr all you want. Derek Carr looked good today. I know people don't want to hear that because he finishes the day with 1 TD and then a garbage interception, whatever. You can blame Derek Carr all you want. You could have had Drew Brees here. It ain't looking much better unless Drew Brees himself is calling the plays. It's just not. This play calling is terrible. The fact that you have a guy talented like Alvin Kamara who finishes the day 19 attempts, but here's what's crazy, y'all. 5 attempts. No, hold on. Listen. I'll talk about what negative tendencies you see from Carmichael. 5 attempts for over 5 yards per carry in the first quarter. Second quarter, Alvin Kamara had 1 rushing attempt. 1. Uno. How many that is? I'm not sure if y'all can count very well, but 1. 1 rushing attempt in the second quarter. Didn't even try to get that ball to him. Then you get into the second quarter, he had 6. And then you get to the third quarter, he had 6. And then finally, the fourth quarter, he had 7 rushing attempts. And they actually started to see success. But you didn't really see a commitment to it till the end of the third quarter and the start of the fourth quarter. That entire time in the middle, none. Didn't even bother with it. In these situations, you continue to see the same problem again and again and again. And if you're going to bench Trevor Penning because you believe that he puts your offense at a liability, which fine. I don't necessarily agree, but I understand the logic. Cool. Then go do the same thing to your play caller who has cost you multiple games this year. Because I'll be honest, I don't know how good Ronald Curry can be. I really don't, y'all. But you're 3-3 through 6 games in a division where everybody lost today. Carolina lost, Atlanta lost, and you lost. Tampa had a bye. Tampa's leading the division. Can Ronald Curry do worse than 13 points against the Houston Texans, than 9 points against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, than 16 points against the Tennessee Titans in week 1, than 20 points against the Carolina Panthers team who is yet to win a football game? And then don't forget, I said this after last week's game against the Patriots. Do not be fooled. That 34-0 win was not an example of the offense being fixed. Sorry, Tampa is not a bye week this week. They're playing Detroit right now and losing. But I said, don't let that one game make you believe this offense is fine, because you know why? Pete Carmichael had no pressure in that game. The defense gave the Saints the win last week, and then Pete Carmichael never had to worry about playing from behind, just got to play his game, and then he was conservative in the second half. When Pete Carmichael is under pressure, he cracks like brittle, old, dried up, whatever, insert whatever you want to. I didn't want to get too dirty on the channel. And that's just how he is. He reverts to bad tendencies. And at what point do you bench him for that? Right? Derek Carr had his best game of the year. Derek Carr looked good today. But if you go back and watch all these plays, I said this on Bleacher Report. Look at the 51-yarder to Rashid Shaheed. Some people are going to be like, hey, he underthrew that ball. Go back and watch it. He was being tugged down. His jersey's being pulled. He's about to be sacked on that play. So it ends up, resulting in that. But it was still a good throw. Then you go look at the one to Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed. In terms of the spots they needed to go to in the corner, perfect. But why are you calling that play call when the pass rush is doing what it is? Where's the slide protect and then running, a simpler sail concept to the right side or a Yankee concept? Where's the middle of the field attack? If you're going to attack the sidelines, do it in layers. Don't do it in nothing but deep corner routes. The play calling here is simply not good. And at what point do Saints fans say, I've had enough, I don't want to see this anymore? Well, let's get into those who are here. Appreciate y'all all being here. Love you, Saints fans. I'm sorry that y'all have to continue to deal with what the New Orleans Saints are providing for you. Godfather Raheem, Ken Trail, AJ Depreciate, Nikki DeFish, Suave, Mark 504, who that to y'all, welcome in. I don't want to underscore the impact of a bad injured O-line has on the team, but when 3 trips to the red zone plus another in field goal range yields only 3 points, it's time for someone to get fired. Yeah, and look, I'm not happy with Blake Grupe. The dude missed a 29-yarder, but I'm not about to put all this on Blake Grupe, right? We're not about to go to the rookie kicker and be like, you're the problem. Because I feel like that's almost what's happening with, Derek Carr getting blamed or Trevor Penning getting blamed and benched, right? At what point do you look at the problem, which is the guy who's been here in every situation? Doesn't matter. Andy Dalton's quarterback, Winston's quarterback, Derek Carr's quarterback, Michael Thomas is now back. You complained about the wide receivers not being good enough last year, Pete Carmichael. Well, you got better playmakers at wide receiver now between Rashid Shaheed, who's fantastic, Chris Olave, who's fantastic. He's not been fantastic for a couple weeks. Better today. Michael Thomas is definitely consistent and good. You got a good tight end room. You just talked about needing to get the tight ends more involved. You know how you get the tight ends more involved? Attacking the middle of the field. Guess what they didn't do today? Attack the middle of the field. You know what getting Foster Moreau involved was? Foster Moreau was a dump-off man sitting at 5-yard sit routes. That's not getting your tight end involved. Now, shout out to Taysom Hill, who had a pretty nice impact, 7 receptions, 49 yards. But that's not doing what you said you're going to do. And this is why when we had our pregame prediction, what did I say? I say, unless this Saints offense can be different, they're going to lose. I said that. I don't trust it. And I also said that you're going to see on the opposite side of the field how a West Coast offense should look. A West Coast offense should be using movement and motion, should be attacking the middle of the field. And what was rookie quarterback C.J. Stroud and first-time offensive coordinator for the Houston Texans doing all game long? Attacking the middle of the field, pushing it, deep crossing patterns. And if they were attacking the sidelines, it's because they had a crossing pattern going all the way across and they had the protection, or they made a slide to make that happen. And they were targeting these underneath routes and these deep middle crossing routes. They weren't trying to beat you over the top and go, deep safety looks. Bobby Slowick is playing a West Coast team, or with a West Coast offense that isn't the prettiest thing, isn't the most big play thing, but it was consistent and it was effective. And what's so terrible for me as a Saints guy is I really, truly, and maybe this is black and gold color glasses, I really do believe that this offense is talented enough to be a top 15, top 10 offense. I do. And maybe that's a problem with me. Maybe I need to be more honest. But I think the weak point of this team is probably the offensive line, but I don't believe that their offensive line, how they've been the past month, is the bottom of the league. I feel like they're right around the middle, maybe lower middle. I feel like the talent on this offense is a team that's going to score 25 to 28 points a game. Yet, here you are against the Houston Texans, who, again, and I said this in the pregame, I didn't say the Houston Texans were a bad team. I said the New Orleans Saints are a more talented team. Houston Texans, you scored 13 points. That's it. That's all. You're not going to win football games scoring 13 points. This offense has the talent to do it. And at what point do you admit play calling is the issue? At what point do you admit play calling is the issue? You know, and when Sean Payton was here, he did a great job with the offense. Started to get stagnate towards the end, and you moved on from him, right? You need to move on from Pete Carmichael. You need to move on. Joe John says 2 missed field goals. The interception fumble, 2 turnovers on down and field goal range. That's at least 15 points. Yes, I mean, the field goals obviously would have made it, you know, just on paper, 20-19. But it also would have changed what you got in terms of how you're performing. It would have changed how you do your fourth downs. But I don't think it really impacts anything besides the play calling. Kentrell says Andy Dalton was better with less on the field. 100% disagree. Andy Dalton was worse than Derek Carr in every film measurement. Pete Carmichael's just trash, so everybody just looks bad. Everybody looks bad. You know, Derek Carr today looked like what you paid for Derek Carr to be. But then the play calling robs him of that. And again, it's all about expectations, I guess. All about expectations. But you've got the talent there. You've got the ability. You got to play the calls. And you got to play the people. And that's just not what they're doing. Carl says, game went exactly how I predicted I knew it would. Could hold Stroud under 200, run the ball, get 21 points, we would have won. We beat ourselves. Poor play calling, poor execution, poor discipline. Coaching is killing us. Agree. Mr. Don says, play calling is bad. The red zone turnover on downs was so bad. A shotgun handoff to Kamara and then dump off pass fourth down where he didn't have a chance. Yeah, imagine drawing up a design, like calling a play by design on fourth down that doesn't go to the sticks. Because that's what he did. Like, I would rather Derek Carr take an 8-yard sack than throw a route that is 5 yards away from the sticks on a fourth down play. If you're going to blow a fourth down, blow it because you got a sack. Hell, I'd rather throw an interception. Yeah, I mean, go for it deep. If it's really your idea, you don't want to go after the sticks for whatever reason, like, oh, it's too obvious, we can't go for the sticks, then fine. Take a shot at the end zone. If you throw an interception at the 1, big freaking deal. But having 4th and 5 type calls and like, hey, we're just going to have it right at the line of scrimmage and pray. And look, I have no issue with targeting Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara is Alvin Kamara, but why do you have him run a route that makes him have to, one, you know they're going to focus on Alvin Kamara because he's Alvin Kamara, and then he has to find a way to get 5 yards. And you know what? He is Alvin Kamara. It is possible that could have happened. It is possible. But why would you even do that? Like, why is that the plan? Why is that the design? And again, this is what I said at the beginning of the show. Pete Carmichael, in pressure situations, cracks. He's like peanut brittle. He cracks. He just can't handle it in play calling situations. I think he knows football. Hell, if in 10 years from now we're still doing this podcast and Pete Carmichael wants to come on, you damn right I want Pete Carmichael to come on here. He knows more than me and the 10,000 people who follow my YouTube channel combined about football. Unless, you know, John Payton or Kyle Shanahan follows my channel, which I highly doubt. But in terms of play calling in a game, right now, that is your weak point. That is your weak point. And at what point do you say, we've got to make a change at play calling? And I'm just curious when that's going to happen. Timothy says, when Ramczyk went out, did we adjust to help out with blocking? So Ruiz slid to right tackle, and you had Nick Saldiveri come in at right guard. And you could definitely tell that that right side was not comfortable. And the Texans appropriately started to attack it, which they should do. They appropriately started to attack that right side. And the New Orleans Saints didn't really do much to adjust for that. I mean, there's some things that you can do. Boot action could have helped, especially if you're attacking the sidelines. And this is another thing I don't get with Pete Carmichael. If your plan is to attack the sidelines, fine. Boot action, put 3 routes on one side, layer them, and then go after it. Go after it. Derek says coaching has no faith in their current players and seems like DA wants to put everyone under the bus before he takes the responsibility for the team, constantly frustrated by his halftime messages. I can say this, man. I've got very little issue with DA except for he needs to bring the hammer down on Pete Carmichael. Truly does. He needs to bring the hammer down on Pete Carmichael. Derek Carr had his best game as a Saint and looked really good. His reads were great today. I can't wait to get into the film and show some of the great, throws that he made. In terms of Derek Carr, again, when I say great, I've never had an aspiration that Derek Carr is a top 5 quarterback. But in terms of what I need him to be for the New Orleans Saints, he looked really good today. But when play calling is trash, what are you going to do? What are you going to do when the play calling is trash? Because Derek Carr is not the quarterback who's going to do it by himself and win. He's just not. Derek Carr is not the guy who manages to make the offense better than the play caller. There are very few guys like that currently in the NFL. Derek Carr is not one of them. But if you give him a good offense, he'll execute it and do well with it. And he did well in the first half before Pete Carmichael freaked out. Now you got a short week against a tough opponent. We'll see how that plays out. Savon says, what's the new concussion epidemic ravaging the offensive line? Is this a new method, a blocking technique leading to this? What the heck is happening? What I actually think is more is you have a focus more and more every year by independent evaluators in the NFL to make sure that they can properly diagnose that, and they taking it a lot more strictly, especially with, upcoming CBAs and everything. They want to really try to show that they've helped with player safety. So that's a thing by the NFL. Carl says, one more thing, Carr's in the problem, made some dumb mistakes, but he carried the offense today. Pete, the O-line, special teams, and this trash run game are failing. So I don't even think the run game was trash, especially when you have 3 offensive linemen who weren't supposed to be there today. I don't think that special teams is a problem, except for Blake Grupe missing 2 field goals. The only real thing I think that's obvious is Pete Carmichael. And I return to the primary point that we brought up. The guy didn't even want the job. You remember that? The guy didn't want the job. And people have trash talked other guys. It's like, because the name Bieniemy has been brought up before, right? Like the New Orleans Saints had Bieniemy in the building, and we let him go, right? Well, if you don't know where Bieniemy is right now, he moved to Washington to be the offensive coordinator. And I wouldn't say that Washington's offense, talent-wise, is necessarily up there with the Saints. And, y'all can say whatever you want about this opinion. I think Derek Carr is better than Sam Howell. Well, they beat the Atlanta Falcons and scored 24 points. Now, that's not necessarily an impressive number, right? Like 24 points, Well, they've also scored 30-plus points twice. The only time they've scored less than 20 points this season, one game against the Buffalo Bills. Every other game, they've scored more than 20. All of them. New Orleans Saints are more talented offensively than Washington. And again, this is not me hating on Washington. It's just me speaking. Like, their lead running back is Brian Robinson Jr. I'm not saying he's a bad running back, but outside of the game. When it comes to their receiving leaders, I love Terry McLaurin. I actually wanted the New Orleans Saints to draft him. But Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, and Johan Dodson is not better than Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Michael Thomas. It's just not. Right? Logan Thomas at their tight end is not better than Taysom Hill, Foster Moreau, and Juwan Johnson whenever he gets back. This is not saying that Washington sucks. It's simply saying that New Orleans is a more talented team, and a guy that you had in the building to talk to, you let him go. He's only managed to fail to score 20-plus points one time in 6 games. And you got Pete Carmichael who can't do it half the time. At what point do we admit this is a problem with the New Orleans Saints play calling? And I get so into this here with this show and with y'all, and I want to be very clear. I am not absolving Derek Carr of guilt. I am not absolving Chris Olave of the guilt of his struggles the past 2 weeks. I am not here to say that there is no problem except Pete Carmichael. I'm telling you the main problem, as in put a big reticle. It's Call of Duty. You got to get 1 kill to win. Who is the big guy that you got to take out? Pete Carmichael. That's the problem. That is the main problem. This offense is being held back from being a top 15, maybe around that 9 to 11 range because of Pete Carmichael. Derek Carr's fine. Derek Carr, this is his best game of the year, and it looked good. I love Derek Carr. I hope film confirms that. I could watch the film and just change my mind. But from what I watched, just watching the game live, Derek Carr had his best game of the year. I'm very happy with Derek Carr. He is what he is. But Pete Carmichael's got to go. I can't see this team ever winning with Pete Carmichael as the OC. I just absolutely cannot. I don't understand why he's still having the play calling duties. I don't understand why he's being given chance after chance when guys like Trevor Penning are getting benched. And cool, rightfully so. Bench the man if you think he's bad. Cool. You're putting players accountable, but you're not putting play calling accountable. At what point is enough? Are you just going to be happy? Because here's the thing, Dennis Allen, if you ever listen to this podcast, which I know you don't. Here's the thing, Dennis Allen. If you hitch your wagon to Pete Carmichael, you're both going to be fired. And I'm just be honest, DA, nobody's going to give you a head coaching job again. You're not. You're not getting another head coaching job. If you fail in New Orleans, you are not going to be a head coach. That's it. This is it. This is your last shot. Pete Carmichael don't even want to do what he's doing. We assume, based on him not even wanting the job the first time. Dennis Allen, if you really hitch your wagon to Pete Carmichael, you are dooming your career as a head coach. You are absolutely dooming your career as a head coach. He says one thing to not call plays to strengthen your players. It's another thing when it feels like some play calling feels like players are forcing their weaknesses. Yeah, you mean like putting guys like Chris Olave in a jump ball situation? I love Chris Olave, but his job should not be jump ball situations. Can't be jump ball situations. That's just not his thing. It's just not his thing. It's rough. Now we got to prepare for Thursday's game. And hopefully the tape makes it a little bit more positive. But y'all, look, I'm going to wrap up the stream. I've had some Comcasting here today, and I don't want y'all to be sitting through a rough stream. So I appreciate y'all being here. Who dat? Y'all are all amazing. We're going to hope that this gets better as the Saints. I'm not saying it's not going to. But I'm going to just tell you that